Welcome Studio 4 to my tutorial on how we can create a feature article using Canva. I thought Canva would be a great tool to use because it allows us to use fun fonts, it allows us to format in a really cool way, use different elements with icons and pictures, and it's just a really great online tool to do graphic design things with. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we can turn our notebook paper drafts into very cool feature articles. So you'll notice right now this doesn't look like something that you would see in a magazine. It's a very boring font. The coolest part about it is that they are in columns, but this is really your focus. This is what you're going to start with Canva, and then eventually it can turn into something like this. So you'll notice like my title looks really cool. I put some raindrop images in the background of it. I have a photo with a caption. We all noticed that first letter of the article was really big and bolded, so I did that here as well. My headings are a different font and style than the rest of the writing. But yeah, this is what yours can turn into as well, as long as you follow these next few steps. So you'll notice down at the bottom, all we need to worry about first is just getting our writing onto the page. So I'm going to walk you through kind of where I started with this. So I started with a blank canvas. I wanted to change my background right away. I looked around at the other feature articles that we have in our room, and I always noticed that they chose a light, not very harsh colored background, so that our text was very easy to read, and then pictures never clashed with it. So that's why I went with a really light gray. But if you want to have some sort of color, you can always click on this plus sign and then drag that little circle. And so like if I wanted kind of like a lighter red, maybe I want a lighter green, that wouldn't be too bad either. But these harsher colors, black text doesn't really pop up on them well. And it's just kind of harsh on the eyes. It's not something you would typically see in a magazine. So again, I stuck with the light gray, and then I was ready to start adding my text. So when I was ready to add my title, I hit text box, and I just clicked one of these three boring ones, or even the add text box. I didn't worry about these just yet. I can always go back in and change my title to one of these cooler fonts, but right now I just want to make sure I get everything on there. Yours is probably going to be a pretty boring text like this, and then when I type out my title, I knew that I was going to have it really big, so I kind of upped my font size, and I just put it at the top middle just to remind myself that the title is going to go towards the top of my paper. I didn't know exactly how I was going to format it yet, but I just moved it up there. And then I also added a new text box so that I can put the author in. Since this was a shared right between us, you guys helped me out with it. I just put article by Studio 4. And again, I knew this was going to go towards the top near the title, so as of now, I'm just going to move it up there. When we are adding our text boxes, it's really important that each heading gets its own text box and each section gets its own text box. And the reason that we are going to do that is because if you look at my final copy, they are different fonts. And it was easier to move around. So this was my introduction text box. This was my heading for the next section. Notice it's a different font than the rest of the section is, so it was a lot easier to just click this text box, change the font, bold it if I needed to, and that way it didn't do it to the entire section. And then I added a new text box, typed out the section, new text box for this next heading, then another text box for the writing. I ran out of space, so I added another text box to finish it off up here, another text box for the heading, another text box for this section, another text box for this heading, and a final text box for this last section. So I had a lot of text boxes to include, and it's just going to be easier over time if your text boxes are all separate rather than trying to format it at the end with it all combined into one. So looking down here, again, I just typed out my introduction. This was really easy since I already had it drafted out. I just copied it straight from my notebook paper. And then I did a separate text box for this Thirsty World heading. And just to remind myself that it's a heading, I changed it to a bolded font. And then I just did my entire draft. I typed it out. And then I was ready to start making this kind of look good. Now, notice that my text is not, let me move these down. Notice that my text is not going all the way across like you would see in a normal book or a normal essay. I really wanted to go with that column look that I saw in a lot of feature articles. So all I did was I had my normal text box, and then I shortened the size down so that I could make it look like a column. And then every time I made a new section, I actually just duplicated the text box and then highlighted everything in it to start my new section. So I was able to do that pretty easily, and it was the exact same size of column and the same formatting, same font size and everything. So that was really helpful. Once you get all of your text boxes sized up into columns how you want it, like I said, now's the time to start making it look maybe a little bit cooler, like this one above. But first off, I'm going to show you how to add a picture in and then add a caption with it. So we've done this before. You go to uploads, make sure you're using the pictures that you've already picked for this feature article. And I wanted mine at the top. You can put this wherever. It's just kind of hard to put it in the middle because your columns are in the way. So what I would do is I would choose one of the columns, move the text boxes away, and then size it to how you want it. And then there's a lot of different ways that you can do captions. Sometimes captions are right below it in a smaller font. Sometimes you have caption boxes, kind of like the one that I have. So if you do that, you just have to add another text box, and then I filled it with the blue color. Whatever works for you. This is something that you kind of get to mess with a little bit to add to your feature article. The next thing that you can do to make your writing a little bit more engaging to the reader is start messing with the fonts a little bit. So clicking on my title text box, I'm going to find a font that people can easily read. I ended up going with this one, but I actually really like this one too. Something that gets their attention, a bolder font, not cursive, and then you can change the color of it if you want to. Like I could have made this maybe like a dark blue, kind of like this one. Again, these are kind of personal preferences, just making sure that your reader is in mind, not your personal preferences, as in what do you think looks the prettiest. I did keep the boring font for the body text because I thought it was really easy to read for all readers, but I did spice up my headings a little bit by choosing this font, and it allowed for my reader to see that these are the headings versus the rest of the text. So I've got those. This already looks cooler. Like this right away, I think you could turn this feature article in and it would go in a magazine just fine. Now the extra things that I did are things like adding this big eye and adding the raindrops in the back. So I'm going to do that now. If you're someone that's not something you're interested in doing, you just want the bare minimum, please go ahead and pause this video and then go work on that. And you can always come back to this if you have time. So I'm going to take you down to this copy, and I'm going to show you how I added the big eye first. So this did take some time. It's not a necessary thing, but I just thought it was cool. So I went ahead and I went in this text box and I deleted the eye that is right here. And then I hit spacebar until I gave myself space to put an eye there. And I actually did it for like the bottom or the next two rows, so that I could easily fit an eye here. And then I added a text box. And I just typed that first letter, which for mine is an I. And I made it a lot bigger. And then I moved it to where it looked kind of fitting. And then from there, I could back up some of these text boxes or these rows that I spaced over. Like I didn't need to space this one. And then I changed this eye. Like I just found an eye that I liked better and used that. So It took a little bit of time. I definitely wouldn't do this until the very, very end of your feature article, like when you've done all the other formatting that you like, but a cool option in case you want to add it. Another thing that I've done is I've added the raindrops behind. So I just typed in the graphic that I wanted, and I found these, and I thought these were really cool. The only thing is that they were kind of dark, and there wasn't enough of them. Like, I wanted them to be the entire heading area where my title is. So all I did was I sized it down to kind of how I wanted it, and then I clicked this transparency button. It looks like a little like chessboard. And then I brought this down, so you'll notice that it's almost a little bit more see-through. That's what the transparency stands for. And then I brought it down until you could still see it, but it's a lot lighter and a lot less distracting from my words. And then once I liked it, I duplicated it. So now there's another copy, and I just put it right next to it. And then I duplicated that, and I put it right next to it. And then I duplicated that, duplicated that, duplicated that. So now there's a cool little header that I have going on with my raindrops. So it looks really cool with the title. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I did up here that I wanted to show you, but I think this is really it. Like I said at the very beginning, this is going to take you a while. The formatting can take you so long because you want it. There's so many cool things you can do on Canva, but it's very important to understand that the writing is the part that matters. So please, please, please make sure you're typing out everything first, because there's nothing worse than realizing you get to the bottom of a page and you don't have space for it because you've added too many pictures and icons, and your columns look messy and your writing looks messy when really you have a lot of great information. Please take a look at mine. I'm going to have those copies for you that you can keep in your writing folder and use this as inspiration. We have those other feature articles in the classroom that have been published that can be used as inspiration. So step 1 is to type all the words out. Step 2 is to actually do the formatting and adding of all of the cool things to make your feature article even more engaging to the reader. So good luck with all of that. I cannot wait to see what you guys come up with. We will have multiple days to work on this on Canva, so do not rush in any way, and you can always work on this at home as well. Good luck.